if I'm not mistaken, of Dortmund regionals, and he was
Yep.
using a really fun and balanced Niesler Porygon 2 team. And then we have it. It's on stream. It's probably exactly the same team. We can go a little bit quick into Mattie Morgan's previous accomplishments. As I said, it is a regional Dortmund regional finalist in 2025. It's also World Top 8 in 2023, Malmo regional champion on 2023 as well, and 4 times World Cup competitor. Is a really strong player. And as I was saying, we do have the same team, I think, that he used on the
Yep.
Dortmund regionals to finish runner-up. Amungus, Incineroar, Goldengo's Niesler, Porygon, and Garchomp. A couple of interesting things here. First of all, the Amungus does not have Pollen Puff. Instead, it opted to run a Sludgemon Protect set with Terra Fairy. And then the other interesting thing here is the Niesler does not have Fake Out. It has Protect and Coaching, and it's a Terra Flying version. And then finally, Garchomp is using a clear amulet set, which we haven't seen a lot lately. A lot of people are just opting to run Life Orb Garchomp just for more damage. Usually that's because they pair it with the King Gambit with Defiant. But in this case, there's no King Gambit, so Mattie opting to run something more consistent to prevent those Intimidate drops. And it's Terra Fire, actually. It's not the Steel type that we are also commonly seen on other compositions.
Yeah, and what's really interesting as well is that Mattie also just ran this team today in Lyle to get top 32. So congratulations, first of all. That's another accomplishment to add to the slide. But really taking a core of Pokemon that you commonly see alongside of the Ursaluna, to play more of like a Trick Room game. I think Flamigo is the other popular partner to sub in for that Sneasel or Garchomp competition. But just by changing 2 Pokemon on the team, you completely flip how it's played. And I think Mattie's really been able to use that to his advantage when he's been playing in all these regional championships. And honestly, he's had an insanely consistent run, you know, getting top 32 or better at the first 2 regionals in the EU region. Definitely someone to keep an eye on for sure, especially if he keeps running with this team, because it's clearly working for him.
Yeah, he is probably very aware how the team can play out into different matchups at this point. He has been running it in the past events, and it's a really consistent balanced team with a lot of bulk. Incineroar providing the pivoting options, Intimidate, Fake Out, Amungus providing Disruption and also some recovery, and Porygon just being a very bulky piece that a lot of teams struggle to deal with, especially with access to Terastallization this generation, so you can kind of decide what kind of weaknesses you want to have. This is a Terra Ground Porygon, by the way. Is not the Terra Fire that we're used to seeing lately in a lot of team comps. It's usually because a lot of Porygon teams need extra answers into King Gambit, but this team having Garchomp and Sneasler specifically probably doesn't feel like it needs a lot of answers to King Gambit, having already these 2 really strong Pokemon. So the Porygon is using a Terra Ground, which can also hit King Gambit. It's not 4 times super effective. It's still 2 times. It's doing very respectable damage, especially if you get a download boost. But I just wanted to point that out. It's a Terra Ground Porygon, which obviously allows Porygon to also do very good damage into Goldengo, for example.
For sure. And, you know, the Goldengo, the King Gambit, those are all Pokemon that his opponent, Oliver Eskolin, is going to be bringing into this matchup for this battle this weekend. Oliver, also a top player, if we can go ahead and pull up his slide. Got top 16 at Worlds in 2024, Gdansk regional champion from last year, and also has a very fun team. And while we wait for it to render on screen, there it goes. I will go ahead and read through it. It's going to be Rillaboom, Dragonite, Goldengo, Sneasler, Gastrodon, and King Gambit. So a lot of those tools, Paul, that you just mentioned that Mattie probably doesn't necessarily want to run into altogether, which is going to be a very interesting matchup for him to puzzle through.
Yeah, I think the Porygon that we were talking about on Maddie's team can have a really good matchup into a lot of things here. You have Ice Beam for the Dragonite, you have Terra Ground, Terra Blast for both Steel types, and also for the Poison types, Sneasler, which all of them are weak to ground, alongside having also the Ice Beam option for Rillaboom, which is not a Assault Vest set. It's a more offensive type of Rillaboom with Miracle Seed, so wouldn't take probably Ice Beams that well compared to the Assault Vest variant. The Assault Vest is on the King Gambit, so King Gambit is going to have obviously more bulk with that said, but at the same time, is a Pokemon that can dish out a lot of damage with access to Sucker Punch and Kato Cleave. And Gastrodon is an interesting pick here. Gastrodon is a Pokemon that can be really, really good into some specific matchups, for example, Rain. You also have Clear Smog, which can be good into Dondozo, for example, which unfortunately for Oliver is not something you are actually facing here. However, it's still a ground type. It has Earth Power and Ice Beam similar to the Porygon. It's just like Porygon has to Terrasalize to be able to access a ground move with the Terra Blast Terra Ground option. Gastrodon does not have to Terrasalize. It's just a regular ground type. You also have the Ice Beam for coverage, and there are lots of Pokemon in this format that you can hit with that combination. On Mattie's team, for example, you have Earth Power for the Sneasler, Ice Beam for the Garchomp, Earth Power for the Goldengo, for the Incineroar, Ice Beam for the Wingull. So it's a really, really interesting matchup here for both players. Both have specific pieces that can be strong into some of the other components. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how these players are going to approach their matchups here.
Well, we have game one loaded up and ready to go. So let's not keep people waiting any longer. Let's go ahead and see just how Oliver and Mattie are going to approach this game. Oliver starting things off with the Sneasler and the King Gambit, but Mattie also bringing his own Sneasler alongside of the Garchomp.
Yeah, there is a Sneasler mirror in this game one. Something I forgot to mention actually is the Sneaslers are quite different because one has the Unburden ability, the other has Poison Touch. It could very well be a speed type because both are Focus Sash variants. However, a Sneasler on Mattie's team does not have Fake Out. It has Protect instead. So we can very well see a Fake Out turn one here from Oliver. And King Gambit, also remember that it's a Assault-based set, so it cannot protect, and it's facing a fighting type and a ground type. So I wouldn't be surprised if this Terrasalization is from the King Gambit here.
It is from the King Gambit, and it is going to be Terra Flying, so unable to take any damage from any ground-type attacks that Mattie might have been tempted to throw down onto the field, but Mattie as well making a couple predictions in that regard. We'll first see the coaching connect from Mattie's own Sneasler with his Garchomp, and Oliver's Sneasler goes for that coaching as well. We'll be moving second here to give the opposing King Gambit the similar boosts, but I think most importantly for this turn, we will see Garchomp go for Stopping Tantrum into the opposing Sneasler to bring it down to that Focus Sash. And most importantly here, because Sneasler is using that item, it will activate the Unburden ability. So even though we don't see it, it's going to be twice as fast as it was this current turn. Garchomp taking a little bit of damage from that Terra Blast to round things out.
Yeah, both Pokemon opting for a coaching turn one play, and as you said, Sneasler from Oliver's side is actually now guaranteed to be faster because it has the Unburden ability and the Focus Sash just activated. Now the King Gambit with Terra Flying is going to be a very tough Pokemon for this team from Mattie's side to actually deal with, especially now that he got a defense boost. Remember, the coaching is not only an attack boost, it's also a defense boost, and is facing two physical attackers. So we're going to see another coaching coming off from that Sneasler on Oliver's side.
And I think that's a very consistent play from Oliver here, just recognizing this may be your last opportunity to attack, but you're guaranteed to give your Pokemon an attack and defense boost. Mattie forced to rely on Dire Claw to open up the board, and fortunately for him, he was able to put the opposing King Gambit to sleep as a result. One of the downsides of Terrasalization here is that King Gambit lost its immunity to poison-type attacks, which just opened the opportunity for Dire Claw to put that Pokemon to sleep.
That is a really unfortunate sleeve for Oliver. Of course, King Gambit looking really strong. I was saying like it's going to be kind of tough for these two physical attackers to deal with a King Gambit that is getting a defense boost alongside an attack boost. But Dire Claw is one of those moves that can just change completely the perspective of a game, inducing those status conditions, 50% chance of getting sleep, paralysis, or poison. And fortunately for Mattie, it got the one that he really needed, because poison wouldn't be that important, I guess, and paralysis, King Gambit is already super slow. This lead changes a lot of the perspective here, as we see Relevant now coming on Oliver's side, having Fake Out option in this turn.
Yeah, I think the big question is, though, just how many turns will the King Gambit stay asleep, as because it slept its first turn the previous turn, it is now capable of waking up. Fake Out into the opposing Sneasler, so no more Dire Claws for now, and Dragon Claw into the opposing Rillaboom to bring it down to below half its health.
Yeah, and King Gambit, unfortunately for Oliver, stays asleep for another turn. This is the second turn. Remember that the first one already happened, so it could have waken up this turn, but unfortunately it didn't. Really been taking more than 50% from a non-life for Garchomp is also huge. This coaching boosts are starting to pay off a lot for Garchomp. And remember that Mattie also has Protect on his Nisa, so he could very well just stay in on the turn for another chance if he wants, just clicking Protect this time, or just going for a Dark Claw into that Rillaboom, which is weak to it. I'm really excited to see how Oliver can like maybe try to bounce this back with the last Pokemon that he hasn't revealed yet, because the King Gambit obviously is looking great, but is still asleep. Let's see if he wakes up this turn.
No, it looks like King Gambit went for a Sucker Punch or it has to be a Sucker Punch there and did stay asleep. Dire Claw will pick up the KO on the opposing Rillaboom. And now I think the big question to me is just seeing how much damage this Dragon Claw does into the opposing King Gambit. It's going to be another 2 or 3 turns before that damage is going to add up enough to knock out that Pokemon. So while King Gambit is still in a tough position for sure while it's asleep, I think there still is a lot of potential for Oliver here, especially seeing that final Pokemon is going to be Goldengo.
Yeah, the Goldengo on Oliver's side is Life Orb, so it's able to protect at least for this turn. King Gambit took its third turn sleep, so it's guaranteed to wake up now, and obviously Mattie is aware of that, so you can very well just go for a Protect here, maybe try to reposition the other slot with another Fake Out, for example, from Rillaboom, or not Rillaboom, Incineroar. Obviously that would be dangerous because you're going to give Defiant boost to King Gambit, or just maybe switch out into a Moose if you brought it, or just Protect in this turn. We do see a Protect from Garchomp, so let's see if the Goldengo protects also here.
Well, nope. Doesn't look like it, as King Gambit is just going straight for that Sucker Punch into something. It could have been either the Garchomp or the Sneasler. And fun mechanics review, coaching actually will go through Protect as well. So this Sneasler is more than capable of boosting up that Garchomp, despite the fact it didn't take any damage this turn. But Goldengo is going to get in on that action as well. And there are just so many Pokemon with boosts on the field right now. This is a very unique board position, I think, for both these trainers to navigate because of that.
Yeah, the coaching boost here on the Garchomp is really, really strong, because you are just making it almost guaranteed to survive the Sucker Punch, because you have probably a +2 or +3 defense at this point on your Garchomp. So I guess a crit is the only hope the King Gambit has, probably for Oliver's side, to get a crit on Sucker Punch, because Garchomp at this point is just not going to go down to a Sucker Punch with all those defense boosts. So you can easily just target the Goldengo with the Garchomp and just target the King Gambit with Sneasler at this point.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely the approach you're going to favor, knowing that the Goldengo can protect, knowing that the King Gambit is going to be forced to just weather these attacks. We'll take a Dire Claw. This time it's Paralysis, so you do have the opportunity to move this turn, assuming that Dragon Claw doesn't pick up the KO here. King Gambit is able to attack, will connect a Kowtow Cleave into the opposing Garchomp, but thanks to that Rough Skin, this is going to be really close. It is able to hold on and get one more turn and one more opportunity to threaten a Sucker Punch.
There's still the Sucker Punch, yeah, thread. And like, interestingly enough, Mattie decided to predict the Goldengo protecting, so it decided to not attack a +2 Goldengo, which could have gone a long way if the Goldengo just decided to move with something like a Make It Rain. But both players obviously aware of how good each other are, so he wanted to go for a more aggressive play, predicting the Goldengo wouldn't attack there. As we do see the Sucker Punch, King Gambit managed to pull through. It doesn't get fully paralyzed, but it goes into this Sneasler, and we see the Stomping Tantrum finally connecting into that Goldengo. That should be enough for a one-hit knockout here.
Yeah, just giving himself the opportunity, I think, to allocate for the Protect. I agree that with what you just said, you know, making that call that his opponent would be playing a little bit more passively there. And while Mattie does have to switch in another Pokemon here, with Amoonguss as one of those choices, I would assume that this is the perfect opportunity to start utilizing Rage Powder to keep that Garchomp safe, to deal that little bit of extra damage needed to lock in the KO.
Yeah, it is a really, really interesting position to be here, because probably the game is logged already for Mattie, but they can take, you know, the time to think what they can do for game number 2, because the King Gambit is super low health. There's no way you can win here when the opponent still has 3 attacks. But you could probably take the time to think what went wrong, what went well in this game,
Mm.
and probably try to reevaluate your choices, for the Pokemon slots you brought and maybe your approach. But honestly, the coaching strategy, we're living in a coaching era in this regulation. Every Sneasler nowadays has coaching, and it's obviously a really strong move because the mitigant has, been more physically oriented lately. So getting the coaching boost, ensuring that you hit hard, but also takes hit better from your opponent's side is really, really good in this format. And Sneasler being one of the fastest coaching users of the game allows you to go for a very, let's say, straightforward coaching turn one because you're usually going to be the fastest thing on the field. And yeah, I think, looking back, probably the sleep, had the sleep not happen on that King Gambit, probably we would have seen a completely different game. But it's something you have to deal with when you're playing Dark Claw, chances, and it's a move that we have to get used to because it's here to stay. At least in this regulation, probably the upcoming regulation when other legendary Pokemon come back. Maybe we're gonna see people moving on from the Sneasler, maybe not. But for now, at least, we have to deal with this Dark Claw shenanigans, and sometimes it can just change the outcome entirely, as we probably saw in this game.
Yeah, I wish that we had like one of those fun little like educational slides to be like, this episode is sponsored by Misty Terrain, but that's not going to
Yep.
make an appearance in this matchup. But we will be able to see what Pokemon make an appearance as we are ready to jump into game number 2. And I am very curious personally to see if Oliver is going to make an adjustment here or if he's just going to hope that he doesn't roll Dire Claw Sleep once again. And with the same lead on Oliver's side of the field, that's probably what he's hoping for. But interestingly enough, Mattie makes an adjustment to send in the Golden Go alongside of that Sneasler.
Yep, Golden Go now is led here with Sneasler, and that's not a great Pokemon to have in front of a King Gambit. However, the Sneasler on Maddie's side is forcing the King Gambit to Terrasalize, otherwise the close combat is going to do massive damage. And once again, one Sneasler has Fake Out, the other doesn't. In the previous game, Oliver could have gone for a Fake Out turn 1, he didn't, because probably he predicted the Protect on the opposing Sneasler. Let's see if this time Oliver wants to go for a Fake Out and just Terrasalize the King Gambit, and maybe go for a Kato Clip into Goldengo, or just a Terra Blast into the opposing Sneasler, because remember, this King Gambit is carrying the Terra Blast option, as we do see a Terrasalization this time. I imagine it has to be from the King Gambit again, but let's see, it is from the King Gambit, so I'm really excited to see how this turn 1 is going to play out with both Sneaslers facing each other.
Yeah, both the Sneasler and the Golden Go on Maddie's side of the field are in a bit of danger this turn. No Fake Out.
No
Instead,
Fake Out.
we see Oliver opt in for the coaching into the opposing King Gambit to boost its attack and defense once again. Sneasler goes straight for that close combat, not going to be doing any damage to that now flying type Pokemon, and will be lowering its defenses in result. Does activate Poison Touch, but that's not sleep, so, that's probably a net gain, all things considered. Make It Rain will connect with both of the Pokemon on Oliver's side of the field. Will not be able to lock in any KOs, though, which means now the opposing King Gambit is free to target down the Golden Go with a Kowtow Cleave for that KO.
Yeah, I like this played a lot from Mattie because although Goldengo is obviously weak to King Gambit, it is faster, and this King Gambit is an Assault Vest variant, so it's not a Black Glasses variant. So probably Mattie already knows that his Goldengo is trained in a way that it wouldn't go down from a Sucker Punch from a non-Black Glasses King Gambit. So you just spin the King Gambit slot, right? You go for close combat. If King Gambit does not Terra, that's a clean Oko. And if King Gambit does go for the Terra, now it's not going to be a Steel type anymore, so your Make Your Rain Life Orb boosted is going to do a lot of damage. We do see the Garchomp come in now, and this King Gambit unfortunately does not have a break. It has been status in all the 3 possible ways: sleep, paralysis, and now poison in this set. But it is boosted and at least has the chance to go for a Sucker Punch if he wants, or just go for another attack if he wants to.
I love the use of Make It Rain on that Golden Go last turn as well, because it brought down the Sneasler into a knockout position on Oliver's side of the field without activating Focus Sash and Unburden at the same time. So you still have to deal with a potential speed tie here between these two Sneasler, which is probably why Garchomp is playing it safe here and opting to protect so that it can catch up in the coaching game. But still, a much better position for Mattie, all things considered. While coaching does connect with the Garchomp on Maddie's side of the field, that same exact thing is going to happen on Oliver's side of the field. I think both these trainers liking the number of boosts that were in play in game number 1. King Gambit, though, targeting down the opposing Garchomp with that Kowtow Cleave will not connect.
Yeah, just hit a protect. King Gambit is now on the timer because of the poison, of course. But both Sneasler's going for coaching, both really liking those defense boosts, although obviously the Garchomp is in a better spot because it's full health, whereas King Gambit is on a timer and it's all obviously going to go down eventually. And now, you know, King Gambit has the option to Sucker Punch. You can try to avoid that with your Garchomp if you want, going for like another protect, but because of the defense boost, I don't think you really need to like worry about that. However, a double target from close combat and the Sneasler and Sucker Punch would probably be enough to KO this Garchomp. So it's a very interesting turn here. We do see this Sneasler from Oliver's side though switching out into a Rillaboom.
Rillaboom will bring the option of recovery for itself. It also brings fake out and priority move access, which could be really important given how much health this Garchomp has after a Sucker Punch. It will bring down to just about half its health. Rough Skin will do a little bit of damage on top of that, but Garchomp able to get yet another coaching boost here. Sneasler still has its Focus Sash intact, still is able to be the fastest Pokemon on the field at this point in time, and Dire Claw now threatening a knockout on both of these Pokemon if the poison damage doesn't knock out King Gambit outright.
Yeah, it does go down, unfortunately, King Gambit. And the Sucker Punch did more than 50%, so I wonder if a combination of Close Combat and Sucker Punch was actually enough to pick up the KO. Of course, Oliver decided to just keep the Sneasler alive because it could be a speed tie. It could very well be a speed tie between both Sneasler, so if the opposing Sneasler just decides to go for an offensive move, then your Sneasler wouldn't even get the chance to get the Close Combat off. But Mattie just going for coaching. I think this is probably the third coaching we've seen in this game from Mattie's side, or second or third. Is second because Garchomp is +2 attack, +2 defense. As we see Goldango now on the field, obviously Goldango has the option to get a Making Rain, but the problem is Goldango does not have the option to Terrasilize anymore, given that the King Gambit already Terrasilize. So two Steel types facing a Garchomp that is also +2 defense, so the Grassy Glide from the Rillaboom wouldn't do that much. And of course, this turn you do have the option to just play safe, protect your Garchomp, switch out this Sneasler, because Sneasler cannot do much to Goldango. Of course, Goldango being immune to both stabs from Sneasler, and just reposition with a switch in here at your will.
Yeah, Oliver's Rillaboom bringing the grassy terrain also is a deterrent for this Garchomp to go for Earthquake to pick up, small amounts of damage in addition to, super effective damage with the Steel-type Pokemon. Because Garchomp protected, Grassy Glide will not connect. Shadow Ball won't connect either, so that Amoonguss is able to switch onto the field for free now and provide Garchomp with a bit of support. It can redirect an attack if that Goldango decides to use another single target attack. It could go for Sludge Bomb to do super effective damage into Rillaboom. This Amoonguss is a little bit different in the sense that it can't heal up Garchomp, but I don't think that's what Mattie needs at this point in time.
No, at this point you have a +2 Garchomp, which obviously would take the Grassy Glide. Granted, there is no critical hit maybe from the Oliver side. And Goldango, as I said, cannot Terrasilize. Maybe even Woodhammer is not enough to KO the Garchomp, so you can maybe go for a Stomping Tantrum to Goldango and Sludge Bomb into the Rillaboom, or you can obviously also just go for the other way around, attack the Rillaboom and just maybe try to predict the Goldango is going to protect. We do see a Stomping Tantrum connected into the protect. Is Woodhammer enough to pick up this Garchomp though? I think that's going to decide this game probably. We see the Woodhammer and it's not enough. Garchomp hangs on.
Garchomp is able to hang on, and thanks to the combination of Rough Skin and recoil damage, that would have been a KO if the Amoonguss had attacked, but instead it went for a Spore, anticipating a switch on that Rillaboom into another Pokemon on Oliver's side of the field.
This is a really interesting turn because Amoonguss decided to go for a Spore into a Grass type. Obviously, that is because Mattie was predicting a switch here, trying to go for a switch, or maybe he thought that if Rillaboom attacked, it would have gone down from its own recoil and the Rough Skin recoil as well. But that didn't happen, and now this Garchomp probably is in range of Grassy Glide, so you kind of have to decide if you want to protect or just give out Garchomp, because remember that Amoonguss cannot Rage Fodder Grassy Glide, given that is a Grass type, the one that is attacking the Garchomp here. We do see a protect, and I wouldn't be surprised if we do see a Grassy Glide, obviously not connecting into the protected Garchomp, and then Goldango is going to follow up with an attack here.
Yeah, this is really giving Golden Goat an opportunity to go on the offense. I mean, this is essentially a free turn where it can go for a nasty plot. And given that the Garchomp protected this turn as well, and given its good as gold ability, meaning it's immune to Spore, this Golden Goat honestly could go for another nasty plot here, potentially. You do have to wonder about Garchomp healing up his health and at what point Grassy Glide wouldn't be enough damage. And you also have to keep in mind that with the terrain running out in the next turn, it's possible that Rillaboom will be switching out to reset the terrain. But a very curious play from Mattie here that's opened up the door for Oliver.
Yeah, I think what Matty was trying to do here is he didn't want to give Rillaboom, sorry, Sneasler a free switch in here, because if you KO the Rillaboom, then Sneasler comes for free and you have fake out pressure now with Sneasler, because Sneasler on Oliver's side does have fake out. So instead he tried to support the Goldengo, maybe just not wanting to give the this Sneasler a free switch in. And remember that Matty still has the Terastallization free, and this Garchomp is Terra Fire, so with the defensive Terra, now it's not neutral to Grassy Glide anymore. So even though it's super low health, with the +2 defense, it should be able to take this Grassy Glide from that range, and it is. And now Garchomp is finally going to be able to probably KO this Goldengo.
Stopping Tantrum will connect with the opposing Goldengo, and all those boosts were for naught. It's a one-hit knockout taking out that Pokemon, and Amoonguss now free to finally do some damage into that opposing Rillaboom for another KO.
Yeah, we do see this Lodgemon coming up here. Honestly, I think what Matty was trying to do was just like delay the Terra a little bit, see what Oliver was trying to accomplish there. Maybe if Oliver was trying to just maybe scout for a protect or just hard switch into Sneasler, trying to catch that Sneasler switch in, and he didn't want to give the Sneasler the free switch in, which would have probably changed the perspective here, because obviously access to fake out and make your rain would have been enough to probably KO both. But now we definitely see a forfeit here because Garchomp is